Last year was a disappointing season in Coral Gables for the Miami Hurricanes, but with an improving roster and consistently good recruiting under Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes look to take a huge leap in 2024. Will they be able to do it? Let's look into it. So if you're looking at the strengths of this team, you got to start with an elite offensive line. The headliners there being Jalen Rivers and Francis Mauigoa, both potential All-Americans. But then you also have a guy like Okanala on the front, who was a five-star freshman last year and could be a really good offensive lineman for them. And overall, this should easily be the best offensive line in the ACC and one of the best in the country. And then you're looking at the portal additions as another strength. Cameron Ward comes in at quarterback. He's a threat offensively, both running and throwing the ball. Damian Martinez transfers in at running back from Oregon State. He's a very good player, formerly a 1,000-yard rusher. Gives you a really good player at the running back position behind that offensive line. And then Samuel Brown comes in at wide receiver. He complements a receiving core that's already bringing back Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo, and Elijah Arario could be a breakout player at tight end. So when you look at the offensive position groups one at a time, I think Cam Ward, I believe he will be the best quarterback of the ACC. I think Damian Martinez will be a top at least 3 running back in the ACC. I think the wide receiving core will be top 3 at least, and I think the offensive line will be the best. So they should have, I think they do have on paper the best offense in the country. But if you've been paying attention to Miami, on paper has not meant the most in recent seasons. So will this year finally be the season they're able to transfer paper talent into on-the-field success? One more strength of this team is in the pass rush, with Ruben Bain returning for his sophomore season after he was very good as a true freshman on the defensive end. Now looking into some weaknesses here, I think you got to question in-game coaching with Mario Cristobal, especially everyone knows about the Georgia Tech game last year. And then the secondary loses some star safeties in Kamari Kitchens, James Williams. So there's some inexperience back there in the secondary. That leaves some question marks for the defense. Getting into the game-by-game predictions, you're opening up on the road in Gainesville against in-state rival the Florida Gators. Graham Mertz back at quarterback for them. I think Florida is kind of being underrated this year because of how difficult their schedule is. They're kind of being written off. I do think they're a pretty good team, though. I think they can challenge Miami. I think they're not a great team, but I do think they're pretty solid. And I think Miami will have to play well to win this game, and it's definitely a game Miami could lose. But I do think Miami's more talented, and I think if it's close, Cam Ward's going to make winning plays. But overall, I think Miami should be able to run the ball in Florida, and I think they have enough pass rush disruption to stop Florida from putting up too many points. And so I'm going to give Miami the win there. And then I'll also give them the win against Florida A&M and Ball State pretty comfortably before a road game against another in-state team, South Florida. So second road game of the season, but you still have not left the state of Florida. Now South Florida, I think is actually a pretty good team this year. Could see some big improvements. But I don't think they're talented enough to beat Miami. And if Miami loses this game, it points towards a very disappointing season. Even on the road, Miami should be able to easily win this game. And then Virginia Tech, this is an actual really tough game. Virginia Tech with Kyron Drones on the ground. They have a pretty good rushing attack. But it is at home and it is on a Friday. And I think I'm going to end up doing a video on this, kind of researching if Friday night games are harder than Saturday games. But just from watching the I live out on the West Coast, watch Pac-12 a lot. So it's kind of just been an observation of mine that it seems like teams were more likely to lose on the road on Friday than on Saturday. Don't know if the numbers check out on that. So I think I'll end up researching it. But at the time of this predictions, that's just kind of a belief I have that Friday night home games are a big advantage, and that's kind of what leads me to pick Miami against a Virginia Tech team that I do think is pretty comparable to Miami. Maybe not talent-wise, but as well as far as it goes into how good the team is, they could be pretty comparable this season. Now Miami's first time leaving the state of Florida comes going across the country to California. I think a sneaky dangerous game. Jaden Ott could definitely make some plays for Cal, but Cal lacks the overall talent to really challenge Miami, in my opinion. And Miami should start the season 6-0 going into their first bye week. I think it's a really great spot for the bye week because you have a couple really tough games after this. If this Louisville game had come before the bye week, I would have picked Louisville. A road game against a team that I think is borderline top 25 caliber off of 6 weeks straight of playing, I think would have been enough for me to pick Louisville to win. But because of the rest advantage for Miami, I think they're able to group together well and play a really clean, efficient game against Louisville and get the win. And then I also think they're able to get, if we're looking at this Florida State game, it's going to be one of the biggest games. Now, huge game against the Florida State Seminoles, big-time rival. Is going to be at home. Florida State obviously went 12-0 last year. They're pretty good this year, but I don't think they're as good as last year. I think Miami's main weakness on defense is in the secondary, although at this point of the season, I think they'll be improving. And I also don't think DJ Uyangale and the Florida State wide receiver core is built to make to really, really expose the Miami secondary. Not saying they won't make plays, but I don't think it'll be like, oh, Miami can't guard these guys. And then I think on the ground game, I think Miami's offensive line will be able to establish a run game against Florida State, which will open up the pass game against a pretty good Florida State secondary. And I think at home, quarterback edge to Miami, O-line edge, I think better pass rush. Florida State is a better secondary, but I like Miami's linebackers. Overall, I think there's too many talent edges to Miami to lose a home game, although I think this will be a great game this year. And then Duke, I think, could be tricky just because you play, I think, 2 really tough games before this. But Duke, I think, could be kind of having not a down year, but definitely take a step back losing Mike Elko. I do think Malik Murphy will be pretty good at Duke. And Manny Diaz, Miami fans probably don't like him the most, but he did have consistently good defenses wherever he goes. But I think Miami is able to get a big win against Duke. And then at Georgia Tech, really dangerous game. And the reason I'm going to end up picking Miami to win is because I think the team's going to be, they're really going to get up for this one because they'll remember what happened last year. And I think there's going to be a lot of emphasis on a lot of pressure on the coaching staff to win this game in specific. And I think they're going to do it. Now you get your final bye week. You're now 10-0, which is 2 games remaining. Well-rested team should beat Wake Forest. And then on the road at Syracuse, little tricky. Would be a big letdown to lose the last game of the season after going 11-0. I don't think you do. Don't think Syracuse has firepower to keep up. And I think Miami Hurricanes go 12-0 in 2024. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to check out my other videos on other teams' season predictions for 2024, as well as my full-length videos for entire conference predictions and playoff predictions coming soon. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.